I was standing in the doorway of our kitchen in a small town in Oregon, trying not to cry over a beet salad. Not because of the beets themselves, although, let's be honest, they do resemble something you might see in a surgical tray, but because my daughter, Emily, was dancing around the kitchen like her entire future depended on whether her grandmother liked her lavender glaze. Maybe in her heart, it really did. Emily had been up since 5 a.m. That was not an exaggeration. I heard her alarm. She had already baked, frosted, chopped, caramelized, then remade an entire batch of lemon bars after deciding the crust was too soft. She even steam mopped the floor once, saying it gave health inspector energy. The table was already set for 23 people. Handwritten name cards, fresh flowers from our garden, printed menus folded neatly beside each plate. The room smelled like thyme butter and sugar, and something bright I could not name. It smelled like joy. She had curled her hair. Her apron was spotless. She looked like one of those bright-eyed contestants you see on a cooking show finale, except this was not a show. It was real. And she had done it all on her own, just 17 years old, with more discipline than most adults I know. I remember leaning against the doorframe, watching her test the lighting and fuss over the exact angle of the water glasses. I wanted to freeze that moment, that quiet glow, that fragile, determined confidence. She did not know it yet, but the people she loved the most were about to hurt her in a way she would never forget. And neither would I. It was 10 minutes before people were supposed to arrive when my phone buzzed. I was still in the doorway, half listening to Emily hum to herself as she arranged sugar-free pear tarts for her grandmother's diabetic neighbor. She had thought of everything. The notification came from our family group chat, the same thread, usually filled with happy Easters and blurry photos of casseroles. I glanced down. We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only. No greeting, no punctuation, no apology. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a joke maybe. I stepped into the hallway, my hand suddenly cold. My heart dropped like a stone into my stomach. I called my father. It rang twice. "Hey," he answered cheerfully, "you got the message?" "You're not coming?" I asked. My voice was steady, only because my body had entered survival mode. No, we just changed plans. It was easier this way. We're already here." "You're at the restaurant right now?" "Yep, just sat down. Menu looks great. Everyone's here." "Everyone," I repeated. "Emily's been cooking for 3 days. You said we were hosting it here. She made enough food for 23 people." "Well," he said with a light chuckle, "tell her not to take it personally. She can freeze the leftovers, right? Gotta go, the waiter's here." I stared at the phone like it might dissolve in my hand. Then I called my mother. "Hello?" she answered, like nothing had happened. "Did you really just not come?" She sighed. "Honey, don't start. We thought it would be more convenient. Honestly, we didn't want to risk anyone getting sick." "Sick?" She's 17. She's taken culinary classes. She built a menu. She sanitized everything. "That's nice, sweetie. But it's not real cooking. Not like a restaurant." I hung up before I could scream. Then I called my sister. "Don't guilt everyone over this, Jenna," she said before I could even speak. "Emily is dramatic. She's exhausted. She needs to learn that not everything is about her. No one wanted to be her test subject." I hung up mid-sentence. I could not listen anymore. Behind me, Emily was still talking about her pomegranate glaze. I turned around slowly. She stopped. Her eyes dropped to my phone. She picked it up. She read the message. And then she saw the photo. The long table, the wine, the smiling faces, plates already full. Her hands trembled, but she did not cry. Not yet. Emily stared at the photo for a long time. Too long. Then she quietly pressed call. "Grandma," she said, voice small. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but I saw the nodding. First slow, then slower, then nothing. Her face crumpled. Not loudly, not dramatically, just inward, like someone had gently placed a brick on her chest and she had no choice but to collapse under it. The kind of pain that folds you in half without sound. She didn't wail. She didn't sob. She just let the tears fall one by one like they were too tired to hide anymore. I reached out for her, but she stepped back. She set the phone down gently like it was made of glass, then turned toward the cake. 3 perfect tears, piped with chocolate lace, Delicate rosettes. Happy 67th Grandma written in a careful cursive only a determined teenager could produce after hours of steady hands. She stared at it, motionless. I stood there, useless. I wanted to scream, to break something, to run down the street and drag every last one of them back to this table. Instead, I just stood there, watching my daughter crumble, and feeling like I was back in my own teenage body, invisible and not inaudible. I remembered what it felt like to be her, the second daughter. The afterthought. Always the one who had to make do. That's when something shifted. No, not again, not this time. I wasn't going to let them do to her what they did to me. I didn't know what I would do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. They would not be the ones to define her moment. Not today. That night, after the house went quiet and Emily disappeared into her room, I stayed in the kitchen. I stood there, holding a plate of untouched roast duck, staring out the window into the dark. The scent of thyme and lavender still lingered, mocking me. I was trying to process the pain when my phone buzzed again. It was a payment notification. My business credit card, the one I used occasionally to cover family costs, had been charged. $1,327.90. At a restaurant downtown. The same restaurant they were at. For a party of 23. I stared at the number, at the nerve of it. They didn't just ditch her dinner. They used my money to pay for the meal that replaced it. For a second, I laughed. It wasn't a joyful sound. It was the kind of sharp, breathless laugh that escapes when the weight of betrayal becomes too heavy for silence. Then came something else. Clarity. The cold, still kind that comes right before a storm. The kind that makes your spine straighten. The kind that says, enough? They didn't just erase her. They made me pay for her erasure. And they thought we would just accept it. I should have been the calm one, the reasonable adult, the mom who said, honey, you did your best. It's okay. But I wasn't in that mood. In the kitchen, Emily was still standing stiff in front of the cake. Her arms hung at her sides. Her hands were clenched like she wanted to throw something, but didn't want to ruin her own frosting. I should just throw it all out, she whispered. No, I said. If they won't eat it, someone else will. Like who? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't have an answer yet. But my hands were already reaching for my phone. She didn't know it yet, but I was about to burn this whole evening down and build something better in its place. The first person I called was my husband, Mark. He was still at work, but the second he heard my voice, he said, I'm on my way. No questions, just motion. Then I started dialing. Old friends, neighbors, people from the community center, a woman I'd met once at a charity bake sale, my cousin Leo, the one who always got left out of family events for being too intense, which was just code for calling out my parents when they were awful. I even called my dentist's receptionist. I didn't invite them. I summoned them. I told the truth. My daughter spent 3 days cooking for her grandmother's birthday. She planned a full menu. The family ditched her no notice. She made enough for 23. I needed people who could eat. That was it. And to my shock, they came. By the time Mark pulled into the driveway, the first 2 cars were already parked out front. A neighbor brought a bottle of red and an extended family who hadn't made dinner plans. A woman I barely remembered from book club showed up with her teenage son and a bouquet of tulips from the gas station. It didn't matter. They were showing up. For Emily. It felt like a protest, dish by dish, chair by chair. Emily stood frozen in the hallway, whispering, Mom, what are you doing? I'm salvaging your dignity, I said, placing the wine on the counter. And your dessert. Help me find more chairs. She blinked, processing. You cooked for 3 days, I told her. You made something beautiful. This isn't pity. This is defiance. That shut her up, but only because she didn't have words yet. We shoved 2 folding tables together, started lining up plates, setting out the menu cards she made by hand. She slipped away to the kitchen, whispering panic about sauce temperature and plating time. That's when the journalist arrived. I hadn't invited her. Someone else had. A friend of a friend in local food media. She carried a camera bag and a sharp curiosity. I heard what happened, she said gently. Mind if I try a few things? Emily looked like someone had asked her to sing the national anthem on live TV while juggling. I answered for her. Please, try everything. And so she did. The journalist didn't just taste the food, she documented it. She photographed every course. She asked Emily about the ingredients, her techniques, where she learned to temper chocolate, why she chose lavender and thyme. Emily, at first, could barely answer without stammering, but as the questions kept coming and the compliments rolled in, she found her voice. She's better than some of the professional chefs I've reviewed, the journalist whispered to me as Emily floated back to the kitchen to check the duck. I swallowed hard. Tell her that. By the time the last guest arrived, all 23 seats were full. Emily peeked around the corner like a nervous raccoon. Should I serve the appetizer? She asked. No, I said. You serve your menu. And she did. The first course went out. There was a hush. Then a murmur. Oh wow, is that lavender? This is incredible. By the main course there was applause. By dessert, someone stood to make a toast. To Emily. To the girl who didn't quit. To the girl whose food tasted better than anything they'd ever paid for. She got a standing ovation. And for the first time all day she smiled, not forced, not brave, real. Later that night, when the house was quiet again, I was still awake when my phone buzzed. A link from the journalist. The story was already live. The birthday that wasn't, how a teen chef cooked for 23 and was abandoned, then hosted the most memorable dinner of the year. It wasn't just a food review. It was the whole story. How her grandmother's birthday was supposed to be hosted at our home. How Emily planned, cooked, cleaned, organized all by herself. How the family changed plans last minute and left her behind. How they paid for that restaurant meal with my business card. They didn't name names, but they didn't have to. Everyone knew who stayed and who walked away. And the internet. The internet had thoughts. By morning, the comment section had exploded. She's amazing. Where can I try her food? Who leaves their own granddaughter like that? This is why some of us cut ties. I showed a few of the comments to Emily. She just stared wide-eyed, then slowly put her phone down. That night, she fell asleep on the couch, still wearing her apron, one hand curled like she was holding a whisk. For a moment, it felt like we could finally breathe. Until the knock. It came the next afternoon. Not a ring, not a call, a pounding knock. I looked through the window and almost laughed. My parents were on the porch, both in matching windbreakers, looking like they had just walked out of a courtroom drama. My sister stood behind them, arms crossed like she had rehearsed the pose in front of a mirror. I opened the door but didn't say anything. You need to fix this, my dad snapped, skipping any greeting. My mom followed. Do you have any idea what you've done to our reputation? My sister stayed quiet, letting the elders speak first, always so traditional. What I've done? I asked calmly. They pushed past me before I could stop them into the hallway, into my kitchen, like they still had a right to my space. You told the media we abandoned Emily, my mom hissed. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said. A journalist came, ate the food, heard what happened, and wrote the truth. Honestly, I think she was generous. My dad pointed a finger. This isn't funny. Everyone at church read it. My golf buddies won't reply to my texts. I raised an eyebrow, devastating. That's when my sister stepped forward. You need to tell people it was taken out of context. You need to say it wasn't that bad. Taken out of context, I repeated. Did someone steal your phone and send that group text? Did I imagine the $1,300 charge? Did Emily hallucinate the photos you posted from dinner? My mother's voice cracked. You made us look like monsters. No, I said quietly. You did that yourselves. Emily just cooked. That was when the shouting started. Not conversation, not remorse, just blame. Until suddenly my daughter walked into the hallway. She had heard everything. And my mother turned to her and said the one thing that made everything snap. You should be ashamed of yourself. I moved before I even realized I had. One moment, I was standing by the kitchen doorway. The next, I was directly in front of Emily, blocking her from my mother's line of sight. You don't get to speak to her like that, I said, my voice low, steady. Right then, Mark walked in through the front door. He didn't need to ask what was going on. One look at their faces, one look at Emily's tear-streaked eyes, and he knew. Out, he said, calmly but firmly. My father scoffed. This is a family matter. Mark didn't flinch. No, this is our home. And you came here to scream at a 17-year-old girl who made you dinner. You don't get to hurt her twice. Not today. Not ever. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. They stood there frozen. Then my sister muttered something about legal action and stormed out. My parents followed her. Door slam. Silence. Emily didn't say anything. She didn't move. I walked toward her slowly, arms out, but she turned toward the window. 3 people were outside, phones in hand. It was our neighbor Jeff, he who ran the local Facebook group and once live-streamed our neighborhood barbecue filming from his front lawn, wide-eyed. I gave him a look that said, "Post this and your compost bin is next." Too late? That evening, a video appeared online titled, "The grandparents from that viral Teen Chef story just showed up at her house. Watch what they said." The internet did what it does. The comments were blistering. Imagine being this bitter over a birthday cake. Who yells at a kid who just wanted to cook dinner? This is why some of us cut ties with family. Before I blocked them, I saw the final text from my parents. "You've ruined you. We'll take legal action. So this is elder abuse. I didn't reply. I blocked them all. And I deleted the card they used. That betrayal wouldn't happen again. Then I posted a single sentence. We stand by every word, and we're done protecting people who hurt our daughter. I expected backlash. What I got was support. Old friends I hadn't heard from in years messaged me. Strangers sent notes to Emily, words of encouragement, praise, admiration. A local chef invited her to stage in his kitchen over the summer. And someone from a culinary program she used to dream about. They wrote that they'd be watching her journey with interest. We didn't throw a celebration, but for the first time in a long while, we exhaled. Fast forward 1 year. Emily got in. Not just to any school, but the program she used to whisper about while reading recipe books under her covers. The one she never thought she was good enough for. She's still in her first year, but she already has clients. People who ask her to bake for birthdays, cater small dinners, design full event menus. Some of them even reference the article, the one that started it all. Her food blog is growing. She posts recipes, photos, short videos. She has followers now, real ones. People who see her, respect her. She's different too. Not louder, not flashier, just steadier, firmer, like she knows her worth. She never reached out to my parents again. Neither did I. We heard they moved 2 towns over. Apparently too many people stopped inviting them to things. Too many former friends had plans. They told someone they wanted a quieter life. Sure. Emily never got a real apology. And I never got that $1,300 back. But we got something better. Clarity. Peace. And a future my daughter is building with her own 2 hands that once trembled, but now create with confidence and purpose. So yes, that's how my daughter's first heartbreak turned into her first headline. How a ruined birthday became a full-course rebirth. How I stopped funding silence and chose to stand up once and for all. And if you're wondering whether I went too far, no, I went far enough. And I'd do it again tomorrow. If this story touched something in you, let us know in the comments. And if you believe in standing up for the people you love, like, share, subscribe. You never know who might need to hear this next.